One eternity later.
So, back when I was a kid in 2005, one of the most popular car video games was Need for Speed Most Wanted. Now, if you don't know the story behind this video game, essentially the player, which is the protagonist, has to street race until they receive the highest profiled car in the game, which is the BMW E46 M3 GTR. Now, prior to this, I was a huge BMW fan when I was a kid. Back in 2005, our family actually had this immaculate 1988 BMW 325i, and I just remember spending hours gazing at it. And I think that's where I really started to, have this appreciation for the brand. Now, when you're a kid, you obviously can't drive. So what's the best way to experience a car? Well, that's through video games. So here I am, about to experience the car of my dreams through video games. But there's just one issue. You see, my parents are a little old-fashioned, and they didn't believe in me having a PS2 or an Xbox, and probably thought it was time better spent to play outside. Okay, fair enough. I'll just use the family computer. Well, you see, this was the family computer, a Toshiba T1900, which even by probably 2005 standards had the computing power of a piece of wood, and definitely not near enough to play Need for Speed Most Wanted. So when you're a kid and something disappointing happens that's out of your control, you feel sad. But you also dream big. So I told myself, you know what? One day I'll own a computer that's powerful enough to play a video game from 2005. And sure enough, I achieved that, and now I have a ThinkPad W520 from 2012. No, but all jokes aside though, having a BMW M car... Sorry, one sec. So, this is my dog Lena. She's actually the one that's been making all the noises in the back. Say hi to the camera. Okay. Little camera shy. So with prices fetching over $20,000 for M cars, I pretty much put that idea aside. Until that is one day when I found this one example on Craigslist. Well, here it is, my new to me 2001 BMW E46 M3 Cabriolet. Now, if you've been observing prices of these BMW M cars, you're going to notice that they're actually starting to rise in value. Now, a medium mileage E46 M3 Cabriolet in my area is going for about $20,000 to $25,000, and you can also find competition packs with extremely low miles starting to fetch upwards of $50,000. So why exactly are these cars rising in value so much? Well, it has to do with two main reasons. The first is their simplicity, and the second is because of the nostalgia that these cars bring. Now, I personally love the E39 M5 and the E36 and E46 M3, but I just can't justify spending the astronomical figures that people are asking for them today. So that's why I bought this, a very broken E46 M3 Cabriolet. So today, I'm going to give you guys a tour of this M3. I'm going to show you why it's special, and we'll also go over everything that's broken with it. And believe me, this M3 really needs a lot of love. And then after that, we're going to take it for a test drive, and I'll be totally honest, we probably shouldn't be driving it in this state. And yeah, let's let the project begin. So starting off with the exterior, what you're going to notice is that this car is very nicely proportioned. And what I really like about it is that it's not humongous, but at the same time, it's not tiny to the point where you feel cramped inside. And I think BMW just did an overall amazing job designing the E46 chassis. Now, this specific example comes with the 19-inch wheels and is fitted with the soft top and also is in titanium silver. And while that might not be the most favorable spec among BMW enthusiasts, it does have a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is not to say the SFG gearbox is bad. Now under the hood, we've got arguably one of the most iconic engines that BMW has ever produced. This is the 3.2 liter S54 inline 6, and when this engine came out, it made a lot of headlines. The main reason was because BMW reached the mark of producing 100 horsepower per liter. And for 2001, this was quite an achievement considering that this was a naturally aspirated motor. Now, many engines today from Ferrari, Porsche, and Audi are easily achieving this figure, but the fact that the S54 could do that in 2001 is truly a feat of engineering. So how exactly did BMW get the most out of this engine? Well, for starters, they gave it individual throttle bodies, and you can never go wrong with individual throttle bodies. They also gave the car a much more updated Vanos system and increased the bore and compression compared to the E46 M3. And they also gave it a 32-bit ECU, which at the time was super cunning, and BMW claimed that it could do millions of calculations per second. And finally, they gave it an oil scavenging pump to make sure that this high revving engine had oil pressure at all times. So as a result, they produced this. And this engine is truly remarkable in how it sounds and the way it revs. And while some people don't like the raspy exhaust it has, its induction noise is something truly wonderful that you just can't get with cars today. All right, so what's broken with this M3? Well, there's quite a lot that's broken. So take a seat and hide your wallet, because fixing a cheap German performance car is probably one of the most expensive things you can spend your money on. So the first thing on our laundry list is the differential. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. It basically sounds like rocks in a blender when you're in a parking lot and turning it at low speeds. And when you do that to the car, you really feel like you're hurting it and you want to apologize to it. So in all honesty, this thing just needs a new LSD. Moving on to the transmission, the clutch feels like it has maybe 20,000 kilometers of life left in it. It's starting to catch just a little higher than it should be, and it does slip a little bit. And also when you try to put the gearbox into second gear when it's cold, it is a little bit of a task. And that's honestly a common problem with E46 M3s. Now, when you try to wind out the motor, it does sound a little funny, so I suspect that the Vanos is probably going to need some substantial work. And I did call my local dealership, and it actually turns out that the rod bearings were done along with the airbag recall, which is great news because these are not cheap fixes.
Another thing I also wanted to add was that the rear subframe was inspected and it has been reinforced. A rear chassis subframe reinforcement kit was installed from Turner Motorsport. Basically what happens with E46 M3s is that over time, as you push the car, load transfer happens from the drivetrain and suspension to the subframe and body of the car. As time goes on, the subframe bushings wear down, and this causes the meeting point between the floorboard and the subframe bushings to absorb this load transfer, which leads to cracking in the floorboard. This is definitely something that should be looked over in every E36 and E46 M3 by now.
Moving on to the exterior, the convertible soft top doesn't open. And that could be something as simple as an electronic sensor, or it might just need a brand new entire assembly. We'll find out. As for body damage, there isn't anything too severe on it. There is a bit of scuffing on the front bumper, but that's nothing that a body shop can't fix. So it's definitely clear this car needs a lot of work, but given its condition, mileage, and price, it was definitely the best deal. Now, this car has 78,000 miles, or roughly 125,000 kilometers, despite being from 2001. And when you factor that in, I think it's truly going to be worth it to restore it to its former glory. Now,
if you own an E46 M3 or if you've experienced problems with BMWs that this car has, let me know in the comments below how you fixed it or how you sorted it, because I truly appreciate your help. And also, if you want to see me be an idiot and spend all my income on a very heavily depreciated German performance sedan, make sure to subscribe. So, in all honesty though, this is the very first video of many more to come as we tackle this Project E46 M3. Anyways, let's take her for a spin. So here we are inside of the BMW E46 M3. And when you step inside this interior, it really takes you back to the early 2000s. Now bear in mind back then that BMW was really at the top of their game. They made these no-nonsense interiors that were driver-focused, and anyone that could step inside of them could be familiar with them within minutes. And it's really refreshing as a car enthusiast to think about that, especially when you consider that modern cars today have all these electronic gimmicks that most of the time aren't even being used. Now, as great as the interior is in that sense, it does have its flaws. And one thing that these interiors from the early 2000s from BMW suffer from is honestly just wearing out after being honestly used. Now, this one isn't that bad. It does have a little bit of scuffing on the leather here, and the center console plastic trim is bubbling just a little bit. And also the leather around the steering wheel is a little faded. But all things considered, it's really not that bad when you look at other E46 M3 examples. However, when you put all of the unimportant stuff aside, you truly see what the E46 M3 has to offer. And honestly, very few modern cars can deliver this nature that the BMW M3 has. And I think the point that best drives this across is the engine up front. You get the legendary S54 3.2 liter naturally aspirated inline six that's good for 333 horsepower and 262 foot-pounds of torque. And while these figures might not be the highest, you have to bear in mind that this engine will rev all the way up to 8,000 RPM. And it is such a departure from modern performance engines because this car is not about instant satisfaction, it's about working for it. And what I mean by that is that since it makes all of its peak figures at the top end, you really have to wind it out. And when you do get to that point, the car will make this amazing induction noise that honestly very few modern cars can offer you today. Now, one point that I want to bring up is that this is by no means a race car. And back in 2001, BMW actually marketed this as a GT car with a really cool and dynamic engine. Its main purpose was to cross continents in an enjoyable fashion. However, this road that I'm currently on is really suited for the M3. And you're going to notice that it's really enjoyable to drive. It handles really well. It gives you really good feedback through the steering. The rack might not be as quick as, let's say, a Honda S2000, but it is definitely really enjoyable. Now, the car is a little bit stiff and noisy, and that could be due to the worn out suspension, but you also have to remember that BMW actually had to stiffen the convertible because of the torsional rigidity that it lost when it didn't have the hardtop. So, overall though, definitely a pleasurable car. So, one last point that I want to bring up is the E46 M3's competition. Now, back in the day, there wasn't really much of a segment for this car, specifically the M3 convertible. And if you watch Top Gear's review with Tiff Nadell about this car, he did mention that the CLK 430 back in the day offered, for the same price of the M3 convertible, less performance, and it wasn't as dynamic. And if you added on $25,000 to the M3's price, you could get the 996 Porsche Cabriolet, which pretty much had the same performance and same 0 to 60 time. So when you factor in that, you truly realize why this is a special car. It's so pioneering, and yes, this might not be the favorable spec in terms of
being the convertible. But regardless of that, it is such an enjoyable car to drive, and I'm sure 90% of people who get to experience a hardtop versus a convertible M3 won't notice a difference. So when you put away the downsides of this car and what other people have to say about it, it truly is a fantastic ride.
So with every project car, a good place to start is detailing the car. And I'd like to give a huge thank you to Shine Armour for sending their Fortify Quick Coat, along with some interior cleaners and leather conditioners to get this project started. The Fortify Quick Coat is a quick detailer ceramic infused spray that washes, shines, and ceramic coats the body of your car. As long as your car isn't too dirty, you can use their product as a waterless wash to clean your car. The whole process was very quick and definitely took less time than doing a conventional detail on a car. This is also great as I live in a colder, humid climate, and during the winter, I don't like to spend too much time outside detailing cars. As far as using the product goes, all I had to do was spray on a damp, clean microfiber cloth and wipe off a 3x3 foot area on the car. Afterwards, I just used a clean microfiber cloth to buff the area. The M3 wasn't super dirty to begin with, but the product did an excellent job cleaning the body. I did perform a water test, and while the water didn't slide off like a traditional ceramic coat, there was some beading, and I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt to Shine Armour because the environment was quite cold and humid outside, and the infused ceramic coat probably didn't have the right conditions to cure. After using the product, it really did leave an ultra glossy and smooth feeling to the paint. Given the price of the product, I definitely recommend it as a quick coat detailer as it was super effective. If you're looking to apply a protective ceramic coating, then I would recommend going for a traditional ceramic coating, but given the price of Shine Armour's Fortify Quick Coat and how easy it is to use, it's a great alternative to other quick detailing products like spray wax. So, if you're interested, feel free to check out Shine Armour's website in the description box below, and I'll also leave an affiliate link if you'd like to order it. Well everybody, that wraps up the first episode of Project E46 M3. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share if you want to keep up with this project. Also, check out our Instagram page at West Van Garage for updates on the E46 M3, the E55 AMG, and other car reviews we do. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.